It's
The topic is the decision Brown versus the Board of Education. During this third segment, why don't you, Attorney Blackshear, sort of summarize for us some of the information that we've talked about dealing with Brown versus the Board of Education, and take the last 6 minutes to sort of enlighten us.
You remember when I stated that Brown versus Board of Education was looking for that one intangible factor that could not be resolved unless you just simply abolished the doctrine of separate equal. That one intangible factor that makes white schools superior to black schools. You just couldn't resolve it. And it was brought out very clearly that when the segregation is the government promoting inferiority among blacks, while at the same time it's promoting superiority on the part of whites. The Supreme Court recognized that in Brown versus Board of Education by saying that segregation affects the hearts and minds of young black children in a way unlikely ever to be undone. That's that one intangible factor that cannot be resolved, that points to inequality between the races unless you just simply abolish the doctrine. And that was the reason why the doctrine was abolished. The first thing that one needs to understand that integration is a tool to make sure that resources are equally distributed. As long as you have one segment of the community that's in a boat on the high seas of life by itself, and will have the tendency to deny that other segment of the community its natural resources. But if our destinies are so irrevocably intertwined, while we're all on the same boat of the high seas of life, then one segment of the community is going to think twice about pulling a plug because he's going to sink along with everyone else. So integration makes the powers to be honest in the disposition of resources. And that is the beauty of Brown versus Board of Education.
Now, when you talk about Brown versus Board of Education, ordinarily we talk about the system of segregation. And we know that you participated in the civil rights movement in a way that very,
one of the
very
original citizens.
That's what I mean. One
Georgia.
of the very, very few people. And so let's talk about how you were trying to undo Plessy and of course enforce Brown by what you did. I mean, talk about that.
We weren't so much trying to enforce Brown as we were trying to usher in equal opportunity as relates to employment and participation in public accommodation facilities and so forth and so on. I was one of the original senators in 1961 and while I was attending Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, you will have people today that will swear up and down they were all parts of it. But I will tell you, a substantial number of people were on the quiet side of the revolution.
Very well,
and pretty much criticizing us as being hoodlums and criminals, and that we ought to be in school getting an education.
I was on the quiet side. Go on. Talk about that.
But they were all on the quiet side. Well, I was on the active side. I spent some time in the county workhouse in Atlanta, Georgia, and fortunately, I went to a very good school, at Morehouse College, that appreciated what the students were doing, so I was not penalized educationally, academically, for doing that. We brought our books with us, and we studied there, and things of this type. And we started organizing even the prisoners in jail, behind socializing them behind the various things. And the only thing we wanted, it was just an equal opportunity to participate in the bountiful goodness that this country had to afford to everyone, notwithstanding their race, religion, or sex, origin, creed, or color. And so that was it.
And there was a lot of violence associated with this movement.
There was a lot of violence practiced on us. We were spat upon. We were called everything except the child of God. And we were just, but you know, we had leadership and we had cohesiveness, and we were focused, you see, and that's the whole point about it. And we had feelings of self-esteem, we had feelings of self-worth, and it's those two intangible things that a person possesses that allows him to go forward with the struggle because of the feelings of self-worth and understanding what he is in history and what the future is all about and what you're trying to achieve in the future. So we were able to sustain that.
What would you say to young people today? We find that so many young people are so unfocused, and what would you say to get them back in terms of making Brown a reality? Because Brown, the decision was made, but it is not a reality. How could they, as young people, help to make that a reality?
About doing what they're supposed to do. For example, I see a lot of young black people today shucking and jiving. They will make man-tan moreland and step and fetch it, cry with shame. And by doing the things that you see advertised in BET and things of this type, they need to come back and have a feeling of self-esteem, feelings of self-worth, realize that there's a purpose in life other than what they think it is, you see. And feel that there's an obligation, that there's a meaningful purpose in life, that you are obligated to better yourself and better your race and then better mankind. Maybe not necessarily in that order, but try to accomplish all of them as much as you possibly can. I'm not clairvoyant. I have no special message that I can offer to young people other than to say, have feelings of self-esteem, you see, and get away from this shucking and jiving and being disrespectful to themselves and men being disrespectful to their women, calling them bitches and calling them whores and promoting them on these BET videos as if they are prostitutes and whores and women of low esteem. Black women ought not allow themselves to be treated that way, and black men ought to stop talking and treating women that way. And then maybe somehow we can have enough dignity by which we can do what Charlie Houston always said, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. In a lot of ways, we are still living on our knees. We are still shackling ourselves. We're still chaining our minds as if we were still in slavery. And the only way you can be free is to be a part of some kind of decision-making process that affects the quality of your life. And the only way you can do that is to be leaders in the community. But as long as you are not a leader to the community and then somebody else make decisions for you that's going to impact the quality of your life, then you cannot at the same time say that you're free.
And you think that all of them should be ready to participate this season in these political campaigns that are coming up?
They need a vote. They need to participate in the political campaigns because this is one of the few real moments in their life where they will be able to participate in the decision-making process. Now, just because they're treated equal does not make them free. Because slaves were equal, but none were free. To be free, you have to have the power of self-determination, the power to take. Free people have the power of self-determination, the power to participate in the decision-making process that affects the quality of their lives. And you get in that position by going to school, getting educated, getting these jobs and getting these careers and positions by which you can then be in that kind of position to participate in the decision-making process. Vote so you can participate in the decision-making process. Become leaders in the community so you can participate in the decision-making process. Be on the school board so you can participate in the decision-making process. And if you can't do that, then you have not had any effect upon the quality of your life, and by not having any impact upon the quality of your life, then you can't say you're truly free. You're just equal among all the other slaves in this world.
Very good. Brown versus the Board of Education.
Brown versus the Board of Education.
And we've got about a minute and a half before we call an end to this show today, but the information that you've given us has gone so far beyond Brown. And of course, we are now celebrating, what, the 50th anniversary of that great decision.
Well, the implications of Brown are far exceeding Brown itself, you see. Brown established the foundation, made it possible for the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and once you had integration in the educational system, then it was just a matter of time before you had integration throughout all aspects of human life in the United States.
And I like what you said earlier, Attorney, about the Constitution of the United States being a living document. Over the last minute, say something else about that.
The United States Constitution does not say what it says it says. The United States Constitution says what the Supreme Court says that it says. And the Supreme Court will always interpret and reinterpret that Constitution to make it say what the society needs for it to say at that very moment. And that's why the Constitution is still a living document. If the Constitution was not interpreted that way, then it will become irrelevant. You cannot have a Constitution that's interpreted up against the background of 19th century needs in a 21st century obligation. The Constitution has to be interpreted to be relevant in the 21st century.
Very good. Very good. And of course, let me thank you, Attorney Blackshear, for giving us that excellent information.
Give another 30 minutes.
Okay. And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.